The Center for Instructional Technology at NECC presents Content Management with Blackboard Drive. Content Management and Blackboard Drive to more efficiently manage your courses and files. The lesson will consist of information, interactions, simulation, and questions for you to answer. You will also see a little icon that says Notes. Clicking on it will allow you to take notes in each section. Some slides will display a small Q button under the Notes icon. This indicates that the content on the page will exist in the quiz. If you answer a quiz question incorrectly, you will return to the slide covering that particular question for review. After you review the slide, clicking the Q button will return you to the quiz. Use the controls at the bottom of the presentation to resume, pause, fast forward, display closed captions, and control your volume. The lesson will pause after many segments to allow you to stay on the page until you feel ready to move forward. When you're ready to continue, just click the play button. Blackboard Drive is provided to all NECC faculty who have completed this training with a score of 80% or better. When you have completed the lesson and achieved an 80% or higher in the quiz questions, the facilitator of this training will be notified and provide access to download Blackboard Drive from the Faculty Resources tab in Blackboard. At the end of this workshop, you may feel ready to implement Blackboard's content collection, or you may feel that you need additional assistance. This will have a lot to do with your comfort with technology in addition to your prior understanding of the Blackboard file system. Either way, we strongly suggest that you play it safe and begin the process with CIT assistance. The CIT staff is available to help you with individual on-site coaching, workshops, or can schedule a virtual meeting with Skype or Google Hangouts. Sitting with a coach at the beginning of this process should help save you time and streamline the process. Let's start with some important definitions for terms you will hear throughout this lesson. Content collection. Blackboard's content collection is a file repository that allows faculty to store, manage, and share content. The content collection can be accessed from any computer by logging into a user's Blackboard account. Virtual Drive. When faculty are added to Blackboard, folders with their username are created automatically in the user directory. The link to My Content in the Content Collection tab accesses your virtual hard drive, or just Virtual Drive. Within your course's control panel, the virtual drive is accessed via the link identified by your username under Content Collection. Users are given full permission to their own virtual drive. These permissions include read, write, remove, and manage. Blackboard Drive. Blackboard Drive is a client desktop application for Windows and Mac OS X that allows desktop access to the content collection by mapping it as a shared network drive, which is a lettered drive on Windows and a shared volume on Mac OS X. Now let's proceed with the tutorial. First, let's consider some common content problems with Blackboard course management. The first is content mayhem. That is file management and storage confusion. Years of multiple course copying and/or inconsistent file organization can result in files scattered in various places that are difficult to locate. And then there's content multiplication, the same document in multiple locations that results in the need to edit the same file many times. For each duplication, there is a workload duplication. Sending files by email results in email clogging and version soup, that is, having several versions of the same document floating around. And then content isolation, having great content that no one can find or easily share. This training will consist of two parts, the first being Blackboard content collection, and then we will explore Blackboard Drive. Because up until this point all content has been stored in course folders, whenever a course was copied, all content was duplicated. For each course, over and over again, for years. Now courses can be copied from semester to semester, but our virtual drives containing the course content do not need to be copied. The goal is to remove all your files from the course folder and place them instead in your virtual drive, or the institution folder, depending on how you want to use them. Instead of keeping files in course folders only to be duplicated endlessly, there will now be only one copy of each file, but limitless links to it. Each time a course is copied, the links within it that reference your virtual drive will remain intact. You are no doubt familiar with the content collection shown in the image. In your control panel from within a course, you can add and manage course content by clicking the link to your course ID. Up until now, each time you add files to Blackboard, they are stored in the course itself, and each time you copy a course, you copy all its content. Going forward, you will either store your course content in your virtual drive or the institution folder. You might be wondering how you will decide where to store this content. It's quite simple. If your content is to be used only by you, to be viewed only by the students in your course, it will be stored in your virtual drive. If you'll be sharing content, for example, using a template-based course in which other instructors share the same files in their courses, it's appropriate to store these in the institution folder and make them accessible to others. Setting permissions will allow you to control who gets to see what. The All Courses Content folder allows you to view all folders in which you are an instructor. Although you will no longer be storing your content in these folders, it's sometimes helpful to be able to go back and look at what might still be there. If you've notified CIT that you're beginning this training, you'll see a new tab on your Blackboard site, Content Collection. You will need this tab in order to follow along and understand the lesson. Please contact CIT at distance@necc.mass.edu if you do not yet have this tab. This tab will enable you to manage content independent of any particular course. What we are looking at here are two methods of getting to the same place. You are used to accessing your files using the method seen on the right from within your course. With the Content Collection tab, you are now able to access your content without going into a course. As you begin to understand the process of keeping your content in a single location to be accessed from multiple courses, it will become apparent that using the Content Collection tab makes uploading and managing course content much easier. Notice the similarities in these two images. My content is your virtual drive. In this case, it's the same as the C. Hagen content folder. Course content in the Content Collection tab is similar to all courses content found in your course control panel. While in your course, clicking on the course ID will bring you to the content folder for that course, clicking on either of these two folders will allow you to access all courses in which you're an instructor. Institution content will allow anyone who is an instructor to browse through and access the files and folders that are shared with them. Now it's your turn to test your comprehension. Pick up a folder on the right and drop it on top of its equivalent on the left. Here's a hint. There are only 3 folders on the right-hand side that are equal to those on the left. Very good. Now that you've demonstrated an understanding of the folders in the content collection, see if you can answer a couple of review questions. After that, we'll consider folder organization. Let's now discuss the importance of proper file management. Before adding any content to the content collection, users should plan out how they will manage their content. This will allow them to organize content in a way which best meets their individual needs. Files in the content collection are organized in a tree structure of nested folders up to and including the content area level. This means that each folder may contain other subfolders and files. Carefully planning and organizing your folders is the most effective and efficient way to manage your content. Let's talk about the institution folder now. Remember, this is for content that might be shared among individuals or departments. The structure of the institution folder mirrors NECC's Academic Affairs organizational chart. This was so that users searching for content can easily find what they are looking for. So when we expand the institution folder, we see that the next subfolder is Academics. When we expand Academics, we see the divisions. And when expanding divisions, we then see the departments within the division. And upon expanding departments, we see courses. Finally, inside courses are files and subfolders. Although the Blackboard administrator manages permissions and disk quotas for the upper-level folders, divisions and departments will manage their own content and will need to choose an administrator for their division or department folder. Now that we've reviewed the content structure for the institution folder, let's talk about your virtual drive. So far, we've discussed two ways in which to access it, either by going to the Content Collection tab or by going into a Courses control panel and selecting your content folder, as identified by your username. Let's watch a brief screen recording as we navigate to Content Collection and begin creating a folder structure in our virtual drive. So here we are on the My Blackboard page, where we see a series of tabs on the top navigation. Click on Content Collection. You see that you will land on your My Content page as identified by your username. This is also known as your virtual drive. Instead of keeping all your course materials inside each course and then duplicating them with each course copy, you will now store them in your My Content area. Going forward, your course materials will exist in one location and may be linked to several courses. Course copies will no longer duplicate the course content. Files needing updating need only be updated once, and changes will be reflected everywhere that that file is linked. A word of warning, however: whatever you delete from this area affects everything linked to it. Once it is deleted from Content Collection, it is permanently gone and cannot be retrieved. So take care with your management of content. Let's begin by creating a folder. Simply click the link that says Create Folder. It's important to create only one folder for each course. Although you may have 3 sections of, let's say, CIS 110, you no longer need 3 copies of every file. Remember, one file can link to an unlimited number of courses. So it's wise to create just one folder for each unique course that you teach. All sections of that course will reference the files inside this folder. So I've named my folder and I will click Submit. And now we have a CIS 110 folder. Now notice the little icons under the heading Permissions. The first 3 indicate that these folders are not shared. This means that the only person who can see the contents of the folder is you, the owner. Since you want your students to view this content in your courses, you'll need to give them permission to see it. Go ahead and click on the action link next to the folder named CIS 110. Then select Permissions. Notice that I'm the only one with any permissions for this folder. We will add students by clicking on Select Roles and then Institution Roles. Go ahead and do that. Now we want to scroll down until we see the student role. When you see it, click it. Then click the appropriate arrow to add student to the right-hand column. Notice that student is given read permissions by default. This will enable students to view the contents of that course folder. In general, the student should only have read permissions. Additional permissions are usually reserved for instructors or administrators. We can now see that the owner of the folder has full permissions while the student has read permissions. Note, however, that students will not be able to access this folder directly. By adding permissions to this folder, it will allow students to view files only when the files are linked to a course in which the student is enrolled. Now go ahead and click OK to return to the My Content folder. Now we see that the icon under Permissions has changed to reflect that it's now a shared folder. We can now click that folder name and create additional content inside. So we will build this CIS 110 course with weekly modules, and therefore I would like you to create folders called Week 1 and Week 2. See if you can take it from here. That's great. Now do it one more time to create Week 2. Notice that the permissions for the two folders you created show that they are shared. The advantage of setting permissions on your main course folder is that these permissions will be inherited on subsequent folders that you create within the main course folder. Now, let's return to our main content page. One last thing that I want to stress is a reminder that you are working on actual files here and not copies of files. So please remember, if you delete a file, it's gone. This is permanent, and all courses that link to it will be affected. Your next step is to make sure your virtual drive is ready to accept the additional files and folders you want to add to it. Your disk quota will need to be increased and your course quota will be reduced. Take a look at the available quota on your My Content page. If you do not see at least 500 megabytes in this section, contact Help Desk and ask for your quota to be increased. Once your disk quota is sufficient, you may move your content from your courses into your virtual drive. When files are moved from within the Blackboard system, course links will be updated to reflect the new location. Once this is done, you can use the newly updated course containing links that are to files on your virtual drive as a template for your course copies. At this point, it's important to copy only links and not files during a course copy process. This option will be available on the course copy page. Just take a moment and read the rest of the text on this page. When you're ready, you can proceed. So by now, we hope you feel less like this and more like this. We have a few review questions for you to help you measure your understanding, after which we will move on to Blackboard Drive, the application that will help make file transfer and management easier. For now, on to the review questions.
Thanks for joining me for this quick hit